Come find out the fast and easy way to paint eyes on your miniatures. What's up, hobby maniacs? Baer with you again today, showing you how to paint those crazy hard eye details on some of your miniatures out there. We show you in this tutorial both how to paint normal eyes with no helmets and helmeted eye lenses as well, i.e. for Space Marines or something else like that. Now, of course, we were using our Ixion Hail model here. This is a great show-only miniature from Forge World. We did a couple of tutorials on him. We did the painting red robes, which you've probably already seen, the painting the power weapon, which you probably already seen on here, and now we're gonna finish up the series with how to paint the eye lenses and also eyes themselves. Now, funny story about this tutorial, at the very end, I'm like, all right, and that's how we do it. And I didn't realize till I went back and looked at the actual video itself that there was like this little blob of black that I couldn't see because these eyes are so small. That's inherently the problem, right? That you can see it clearly on the camera, but when I looked at the miniature, I was like, I did not see that until I knew right exactly where, at what angle to look at on this miniature. So the good thing about this tutorial is it shows you still the basics and the fundamentals on how to paint those eye sockets, so you can actually go imagine how I would go in and fix it using the techniques that I showed you in this video. So I apologize for a little bit of black in the one eye right there, but it's still a great tutorial, and I spent a lot of time breaking it down, showing you all the angles and the different colors that you could have used besides black on this, because remember, Custodes are very old individuals, so I wanted him to have a little bit more depth to his eye sockets rather than a more fleshy kind of backdrop to his eye sockets there as far as shading goes. So this is a great tutorial. I definitely still love it, but please excuse the little bit of black on that top of that one eyeball that you're gonna see at the end as we're painting it. Obviously, it's easier to see when something is a billion times bigger. You can't even see the eye on this, can you? Nope, you sure can. All right, so let's get right to it and show you how to paint those crazy small details. So a lot of people ask, hey, what's the secret to painting eyes? Well, that's what we're here for. So if you're tuning in, trying to figure out how to paint eye details, this is probably where you're at, relatively speaking, in your project. You've got all your flesh work done, or perhaps your helmet done, which will be a second part of this tutorial. And you're like, well, what do I do now? I've done this much, I don't want to mess things up. Well, the first thing is you're going to want to create that definition. So if you do screw things up, you won't screw it up quite as much as normal. So what I do is I go in, I set my angle of attack where I'm working with a very fine detail brush. This is a liner brush, 6-aught 7350 skew brush from LOEW-CORNELL. You can use fine detail brushes from Games Workshop or whatever you want. It's all personal preference at this point. And then I'm just going to pull some black paint off my palette and twirl it over the end of the paintbrush to get a nice consistent base on the end of this brush. That actually might be too much. That's a little better. And then I'm just going to go in here at an angle, which you may or may not be able to see, but you're getting the general idea. I'm going in here at this angle and I'm going to hit the whole eye socket with this black, which you can see right there. It's very hard for me to do this on camera and still show you, but you're going to want to go in and get all of that recess right there. Now you can see I got a little too much probably up on the bridge of the nose, but that's an easy fix with a little bit of your base flesh color. That's nothing we're going to worry about right now. We're just going to flip over our head here and go in from the other side. Very, very simple, easy stuff. And we're just going to pull the brush back, maintaining that control in there, and getting a nice consistent coat in the recess. Now what this is going to do is two things. It's not going to really necessitate oh, I didn't get in the back recess there. So what you can do in a lot of these cases too is if you don't get in the back recess, which you can see there's a little bit of area right there, you're just going to want to go in here with your brush from this angle now
and you just hit it with a little bit of black in that back corner. Now the whole reason we're doing black, like I was starting to say before I realized I had messed up and didn't get a good base coat in here, is because the third step after we dot the pupil, which you're about to see here in a second. So now we're gonna go grab some, a lot of people like to use white at this point. I actually prefer to use ULTHUAN gray, which is a very, very, very light blue gray, which was the basis for this beard right here. So it's gonna go, the eyes are gonna really pop with the beard, and we're gonna use that. So let's go grab some of that and come back and attack these eyes. Okay, so I went in there and made sure we got a nice even black coat, and you can see I got a little bit of black up on the ridge of the eyebrow, but that's okay. Like I said, this is all okay because these are areas that you can cover up with your flesh color, which we're gonna do at the end after we actually get in here and get the eye detail done. So I'm gonna grab a little of this ULTHUAN gray, and I'm gonna put a little bit on the end of my brush here. I'm gonna twirl the brush tips until I get a nice consistent point that I'm happy with. And then I'm gonna come in here and we're gonna attack it. I'm gonna take a look. And I think we're just gonna go straight on eye socket pupil. So as I pull up my brush here, I realize I got too much paint on there. So we're gonna reposition. Eyeballs is a very careful, it's a delicate dance, so to speak. And sometimes you just kind of got to reconfigure, like, sometimes you just got to think, hey, all right, well, let me think here. Am I going to switch a brush? What am I going to do? I'm taking a look at my brushes now. No, I'm going to stay with the same brush. Actually, I'm going to switch to this one right here. This is the GW ARTIFICER detail brush. I'm going to do the same thing. Going to put a little bit of ULTHUAN gray. I'm going to twirl the brush tip. And twirl a little bit more. Okay, now we're where I want to be. See that nice, perfect tip right there? You couldn't see it off camera, but unfortunately I don't have a camera down there in my palette right now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and set up the camera. You might not be able to see it, but basically what I'm going to do, you can tell I'm going to tilt here, but I'm going to come in at an even, 100% even angle and dot the eye right square in the middle. So I'm just basically lining up, getting closer, just barely touching now, and no effect because there wasn't a lot of the paint had dried on the end of the brush. So you've got such little amount of paint at the end, the longer you take, the more it can dry. So we're going to do it again. We're going to reset our brush. You got to be patient. You got to be very patient. Gonna do the same thing. We're going in straight on, very gently hitting the eye socket, the most raised point, and we got it. And we're gonna do the other one, going in right at the center. Paint dried again. So that's the problem sometimes. And you can see right there, we got a nice eye. It's a good solid contact to build up from a little bit, which we're going to do in a second. Once we get a point of reference in that sea of black, it'll be a lot easier to expand out and make that a little bit bigger. So we're just going to go in here again, same deal, looking for the middle, straight on, and we got a little on the cheek, but that's okay. Cleaning up cheeks is very easy. And again, the paint has dried. So I'm gonna battle this one off camera and come back, and we're gonna talk about where we're at right here. Okay, so knock that one out of the park, super easy. It's a lot easier to work on these eyeballs when it's in front of me instead of in the camera and trying to do it. Now, you're probably like, hey, wait a minute, that one eye is bigger than the other. And you're right, it is, because I went in there and I did the detail. So what happens is, you're basically making a pilot eye for what you wanna work on, and then you're going in with your brush from this side angle and basically filling in with the very tip of your brush. You're filling in that eyeball right there, making it into an actual eye pupil and not like a little dot. So you come in from the side once you get that frame of reference, like I said, in that sea of black right there. So I'm going to go do that for this eye because, again, I can't do that on camera and still show it to you guys and maintain that kind of control. Okay, so now we're at another point here. You can see that the top eye changed into a smaller, more realistic eye to fit the socket, and the bottom has been brought out. Now what I did was I went in here, like I said, I added a little bit more white to get that definition, but I went back up top, flipped it around like this with some black, and actually fit in the eye to fit the socket. Now it looks a little big because there's some black in there we need to trim out and add in a little flesh around the outside of the eye socket using our super thin brush right here. But that, I'm just giving you the steps that I am doing off camera, because again, it looks like I can't really do this on camera and maintain that sort of control. So first step, get in there, get your dot set. Second step, come in from each side and pull and define the eye with a very small brush. The very next step is going to be to go in with a little bit of black either on the top or the bottom of the eye and define it like you see on the eye on the left right there. Now I'm going to do that on the other eye, and we're going to come back and do some cleanup and some super secret tech. And there it is. The eyes are completely cleaned up and in proper reference, looking forward. No one isn't bigger than the other. It's not cross-eyed, nothing like that, because we used a combination of dotting and coming in from the sides and trimming out where we needed to. Now, there's too much darkness in the recesses there, so we need to add in a little bit of flesh. We need to clean it up, and to do it, we're just literally going to grab some of our darkest flesh, which I think was BUGMAN'S Glow, and we're going to go in here underneath and add a little BUGMAN'S Glow and feather it out into the rest of the flesh right underneath it. Alright, so actually I'm going to try to do it on camera. I'm using some CADIAN FLESHTONE instead of BUGMAN'S Glow, and all I'm doing is going in underneath the black on the leading edge of the eye. Ugh, paint has already dried on the tip. All I did was grab a little paint onto the brush, and then I hit record. It literally dried in that much time because these bristles are so thin. So we're gonna go in here. Probably not gonna be able to see what I'm doing, but you're gonna know that I am. Just going over top and underneath with a little CADIAN FLESHTONE. There you can see it's tightened up. So let's compare to both sides there. You can see that the eye on the left, or excuse me, the right, has been trimmed up, and that little bit of black that was up on the eyebrow is now fixed. So we're going to do off camera on the left one, but just a few short strokes going at a horizontal direction. Well, I guess it's more linearly down towards you. Always control where you are pulling the brush, and with a few quick short strokes you can fix just about any mess, no matter how small the detail. So now that we've gone in there from each side and worked those angles, pulled out the pupils, and got that definition there that we're gonna need, now it's our time to go in and just dot the blackened center of what's gonna form the eyeball itself. Now you can use whatever color you want. Theoretically, black will work here, but it is possible that we should have used a darker color in the backdrop, or a darker flesh color instead of black back here, but it's okay. It all works. Custodies can live to be, like 10,000 years old, so this actually doesn't look that bad in theory. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of black, we're gonna get in here, and we're just gonna dot the pupils. So now we're gonna do just what we did before, setting that definition for the white in that sea of darkness there. We're just gonna go in, and we're gonna dot straight ahead a little bit of black where the pupil is going to be. Very hard to see, it's very small, but it's a good start. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and now we have to line it up with this one here. So I'm gonna look, and then I'm gonna get my angle of attack, go in roughly the same point, and go back over here, and there we go. So we dabbed in the front, we got a little bit on the cheek right there. Looks like we might got some on the beard too. just going at the weird angles. Generally, you won't have this problem because you'll be doing it straight on. You won't have to like worry about camera and such like that. But for this one, it's a little weird because we're trying to still show you what we're doing, but also maintain the control here. You notice too that I was bracing my pinky right here as I was doing it to give me a little bit extra, I guess, stability to dot those eyes. So we're gonna clean up the flesh around here and things like that, and come back and take a look. And there it is. We cleaned it all up, added a little CADIAN flesh around the cheekbones right there, and then came back and highlighted with a little bit of KSLEV flesh on the higher raised edges like the eyebrows and the crest of the forehead right there, and also a little bit on the nose. So it's pretty much done right now. Now, there's a couple different options you can do. Grab a quick, very thin down glaze of black paint and just dab it into the eyeballs, very, very thin, very little on your brush. If you do not use a black background, if we just went with like the BUGMAN'S glow as the background, and that would simulate the same effect that you see right here. It would be not as dark because it would be going over top of BUGMAN'S glow, which is this color right here. But it kind of give you an idea of what you could do at that point. Now, I like this look. Like I said, custodies are like 10,000 years old. So they've seen some stuff. They've seen things. They've seen terrible things. They're getting ready to go on their long walk, and this is where they're at. So I'm not too worried about it. I think he looks great where we're at right here. So that is good for me. Now, you're probably like, hey, this is great. I love this eye tutorial, but what about if they have a helmet on? Well, as it turns out, this particular model actually has a helmet as well. He's holding it in his hand. So let's see how to paint lenses on a Space Marine helmet as well. So there he is. You can see we finished the head, all of the eye detail. We got in there with some CADIAN FLESHTONE, tightened up around the eye sockets, and made sure that everything was good to go. And actually, I think we did a little bit of RAKARTH flesh up on the eyebrows and also some of the kind of like forehead area right there, just to give it a little bit better definition. Now you're probably like, well, hey, that was great. I love doing that for eye sockets and eyeballs and things. Now, of course, remember, you didn't have to go with the black background there. We could have just gone with like something like this BUGMAN'S glow, and it would have been just as good. But I wanted it to have kind of like a darker depth to it because these guys can be like 1,000 years old, like I was saying. So there it is. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, next part of the tutorial is going to be on how to do lens eye detail on a Space Marine helmet, because let's face it, there's a lot more of those out there than there is bare-faced guys here, because I mean, theoretically, if you have this helmet, why aren't you going into battle with that thing on? So we're going to show you how to do that using this exact same helm right here. And here it is right here, the Custodes helm of Ixion Hail. Now you'll notice that there isn't actually two eye sockets here because his thumb is in the other socket here, but it's still going to give us a good exercise on how to make this pop. Now it is ornate, so ornate means, hey, more detail and more room for error. So very first thing we're going to do is get in there and give it a nice solid base coat of our bottom red, which is going to be MEPHISTON red. We're going to get in there, same techniques we used for the doing the human eyes, but what we're going to do is we're going to attack it from two angles so we don't get paint everywhere. So we're going to attack it like this, and we're going to get in here, and if we get a little on the gold, it's no big deal. Gold is actually really easy to work with. And then we're going to flip around and we're going to come in from this angle to get the back, so that way we're not trying to kind of go against the grain and fight to get that base coat in there, which is super frustrating a lot of times. Okay, so there it is. It literally took 2 seconds because we went in the correct order to sounds like the cats are battling over there for cat box supremacy. So we actually went in there in the right order, and it took literally 2 seconds, and we didn't get any red on any other trim. So let's jump to the next color, which is going to be our highlight color of Wild Rider red. Now again, this isn't a whole lot of area of detail here, so we don't have to worry about super layering or feathering or any of that craziness that you see on big areas of detail like wings or, you know, capes or anything like that. So I'm just setting my brush right now on my palette, and I'm twirling the end of the brush itself until I get a nice solid coat of paint right there. That's that Wild Rider red we just talked about. Now, we're going in from this angle, and we're gonna work that brighter color in from the very front of the lens and just pull it back. Now looks like I already got some on that gold, which is easy to fix, not a big deal. Like I said, I got too much paint on the brush there. So we're gonna do it again. Patience is the key when it comes to doing eyeballs. You get a little bit of patience behind you and a little bit of courage and a little bit of being bold, and you're never gonna go wrong again when it comes to painting eye sockets. So now we're just going in there from that same exact angle, and there it is. We're just pulling it back. This little bit of trim is super aggravating because it is just gonna get in the way now, but that's okay. So there it is. We knocked that one out right there. Here's how it looks from the front. So you can see, hey, look, there's definitely some definition now. Now we're taking it to the next and final highlight color, which is gonna be Troll Slayer Orange. Same deal, just getting a little bit on the brush, twisting the brush. Actually, I don't even know why I'm using this brush. The brush I'm using is the incorrect brush. I need to be using the ARTIFICER layer brush, which is a tad bit smaller, and what we were using on the human head there. So again, set my brush, get my paint on it, get my point set, and setting the angle of attack. And we're really just gonna go in here and dab at the very front of the lens. And of course, we popped the bristle, so it went kind of everywhere. Again, not a big deal, because gold is super easy to fix. So there you go. You can see that we have the definition. We go from light to dark in the recess back there to the front, which is the highlight color. We could keep going. We could actually grab a brighter yellow and pop that off. But when you're looking at it, right now it looks a little non-defined because we don't have any darkness in those cracks there, very similar to Ixion Hail. So this is the point where you are going to want to mix up a glaze, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that here in a second. All right, a lot of people always ask, hey, what's the deal with the glaze? I don't understand how that works. So I'm going to show you how to make one real quick with two different ways. One personal way that I love, and one more readily accessible way with LAHMAN medium. So we're just going to take some NULN oil. This is the non-gloss version because glazes don't need to be gloss. You don't have to worry about that. We're just going to put a drop on each top of this water bottle palette right here, which is literally just a water bottle lid that we didn't throw away. Then we're going to take some LAHMAN medium on the one on the left, take the back of our paintbrush here, and put, I would say, a little bit bigger of a drop of this material, or this liquid, and maybe another one, and we'll go 3 times. And we're going to mix that up till it becomes a translucent mix, which is a glaze at this point. Now, my personal favorite is a 50-50 mix of Future Floor Wax, or I guess now it's Pledged with Future is its correct name. I haven't bought a bottle of it in several years, but I believe that is what it's called. We're gonna add 3 drops of that to the NULN oil itself and mix that over here. And as you can see, both are super translucent. Ooh, I probably used too much on that right there. That's too translucent. So I'm gonna grab another drop of NULN oil. Again, glazes aren't really like super duper accurate. Like what you want to do sometimes is just kind of mix it to taste. And if you're doing it for a whole army, you want to mix you up a bottle of your glaze so you have it. You can buy 15 ml paint pots off of Amazon, which is kind of a new piece of tech there. I learned that watching some Twitch streamers. And what's nice about these is you can get these super cheap, and then they hold all your paints. You can even peel the GW paint label off if you want, if you're looking for that dropper bottle kind of tech. So there's our 2 different glazes here. You can see LAHMAN medium, and you always want to make sure you get that good mix, and what we're using there with Future Floor Wax. Either one is correct. Both pretty much look the same in consistency and content. I'm gonna go with what I know, which is the one on the right here, which is the Future Floor Wax. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here, we're gonna grab our part. Remember where I was talking about, there we go, how you don't see that definition in there, and we're just going to take a little bit of this glaze on our brush, not overload it, but just enough, and we're going to come in here and we're going to splotch into this recess, a little luck, it's going to get everywhere. I need to copy that over on the side where the recess would be. But for the most part, it worked right there. So we're going to give that a chance to dry. So what it did was it just single-handedly created the definition we needed to make that lens actually pop. So we're going to wait for this to dry, because that's kind of where we're at. There's nothing else we can really do at this point. And then touch up the areas that we got on the gold with a premix of this silver gold that I was using for the highlight colors, and then come back and check out the results. So there it is, all dried up. Now I worked the wash in there a little bit off camera, because you can see that it got receded in that nice solid line right there. Now if your glaze doesn't look like that, you can add a little bit more black till it does. And I went in and touched up the areas that we got on that gold with a little bit of the gold highlight. Now, you use the same exact recipe for pretty much anything out there that you want to do Space Marine helmet wise. Now you can switch it between, you know, reds to blues to greens, just whatever you want to do. Don't be afraid, be bold, get in there, and always make sure that you line up the left and the right eye when you do that final highlight of orange. But remember, you can always go in there and kind of dab out the very edge crack to kind of line up your eyes like we did with the flesh eye from Ixion Hail. So a lot of different techniques here, but you saw how quick and easy it was with just an iota of patience, a very fine detail brush, and of course the right mix of paint on a very crisp brush end right there. Now, if you like all of our video features, make sure you subscribe to this channel and support us over on Patreon to get a monthly swag shipment of miniatures delivered to your door, and head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.